Huh? No, I'm got good.
Okay, all right.
Let me play on the water.
Okay, you got it.
All right, my name is Dan, Mr. Sadoski, and I am the guy who designed and built the Balance Farms and currently operate it. Anybody familiar with this place downtown? You seen it? Okay. A little bit, not too many people know it there. How about Balance Canadian Grill?
Yeah.
Bingo. All right, well, those are my partners. This farm, 50% of what we produce goes to restaurants, and the rest of it goes to other restaurants and retail locations between Toledo, Detroit, and Ann Arbor. All right. So a little bit of background on me. I'm actually a mechanical engineer who wrote software, did performance prediction of industrial equipment software for 20-some years. Pretty cool. And was just looking for something a little different to do with my life. And a cousin of mine, the restaurant trade in Chicago, had a really nice restaurant. I thought I had half an idea, and then went to him, shopped at past, and go, hey, you know, if I did this, would you buy it? He goes, yeah, but here's all your problems. But you really need to see what we're doing in the basement. And so, okay, went to this restaurant in Chicago and saw an operation producing a lot of microgreens and whatnot they did in the restaurant. Ran with it, refined the process, scaled it up, built one facility, had Balance as a customer buying product from us, and then they approached me one day and said, hey, how about we build something bigger? Because we have some problems in our supply chain. We have some problems we think we can fix. So I thought about it, seems like a great idea. So now we built this facility. It's only 3 times larger than what I had before, but it now produces 15 times the amount we used to. Each and every week, we produce about 3,200 heads of lettuce out of it, about 50 pounds of basil, and 20 pounds or so of microgreens. And everybody worked there is pretty happy and well paid. This is Andrew and Hannah, and they both have their 4-year in biology. Everybody who works there, we're all degreed individuals, and we're basically farmers. But the reason why I was asked to come in today is to explain to you a couple of things about what makes this possible. And first I want to just talk about the design in general. Anybody here of aquaponics? Know what that is? Or not? Okay. Hydroponics, I'm sure you've heard of that. Growing plants with water instead of dirt. And then you have aquaculture, which is fish. Well, aquaponics is the marriage of the two of those principles. So basically what we do is we raise fish. Some operations like mine do it for ornamentals, they go into ponds. Other operations, like us, some people do food, but we're using them more as ponds. Battery fuels the system. So we use fish food, reasonably sourced, no wild caught fish or anything like that in fish food. Throw it in the fish eat, fish do their thing, we filter out the solids. What we want is the ammonia. Anybody here chemistry? Yeah, okay. Nitrification, ammonia, and how that works, how nitrogen works in life, how it's required. If you travel around here in another 6 weeks out in the country, you're going to see farm equipment pulling around a trailer that says anhydrous ammonia. That's synthetically produced out of something very similar to a refinery, kind of related to petrochemical, to get that nutrients to the plant, that nitrogen to the plant. What we do instead is have the fish generate it for us, filter out the solids, and then just like you use yeast in bread and bacteria for cheese, we use it to turn it into plant food. So the plants clean the water for the fish feed the plants. Here's the extra kicker on the whole thing. I can't use pesticide at all. We are not allowed to use pesticide because even the organic pesticides, even the ones that are naturally occurring, when you buy them, they'll have this little number it's published with, and you're not going to find it on the back of the jug. You got to go to their website, dig around in the USDA site called an LC50 number. That literally is at what concentration in parts per million in the water do you kill 50% of the fish in the system? 50% of aquatic life dies. Every pesticide out there has an LC50 number. So the whole purpose why I'm doing this and where we've done it in downtown Toledo, it's under glass. You guys can come check it out, walk around anytime you want. We want to show people that we're able to grow this really gorgeous produce year-round in Toledo. No pesticides and no herbicides in the way it's environmentally conscious. So, wait, here you go, wrong button. So, healthy, nutritious food, big one. Energy inputs, LED lighting, really big for us. And also waste streams. Aquaponics, it's a real weird thing. You see a lot of water moving around. But as an industry, my industry compared to a traditional greenhouse, we only use 1/5 the water a greenhouse does. Looks like a lot. That's because we keep it going around in a circle. We keep reusing the water. We have the water do its job here, and it's ready to do its next job over there. And it goes around and around in a circle. Greenhouse, they distribute it, let it soak into the soil, and it's gone. In our case, we don't even have any actual wastewater. The only water that we have that goes down a drain is when we use it for cleaning when we harvest and plant. Reducing waste. Again, we have very little waste streams. Anybody here know the term food miles? Ever hear that? So, where do you think, you go to the grocery store now, and you find some fresh lettuce. We're not gonna pick on tomatoes, you burned me on
I'm
that
not
earlier.
saying that.
So at any rate, lettuce, where do you think they're growing that right now? Where do you think it's coming from? If you're lucky, it's coming from Florida. Most of it though, 80% of that production in the US right now has to travel all the way from California. Same thing for kale. Basil, who here, anybody, parents shop at Churchill's? You ever seen the basil in the, where you go in? Okay, that's ours. So with the exception of that, if you want a basil that you'd actually want to show somebody that looks like basil, it's not all dried out and packaged, it's getting flown all the way in from Hawaii. So how do we make this work as a business? How long do you think, and also how long do you think it takes for that kale to arrive here in Toledo? Any ideas, on average? 4 weeks. 5. You can drive it in 4, but you have some distribution in the way. So the trick is you can be environmentally conscious and build a business that works. People will pay to do the right thing. They won't pay extra, but they'll pay the same if you're one of the guys who are doing the right thing out there in the world and actually taking care of the environment. So, that guy in Hawaii, or the person producing lettuce in California, he's right here. That's where he gets paid. He gets paid at that point right there. Everybody else along the way, transporting it, shipping it, putting it on a plane, putting it on a boat, they all have to get paid before it gets to the retailer and the consumer. It goes to the congregating warehouse, it gets shipped to where it's going, it ends up in a congregating warehouse close to us. In our case, the USDA, they call it terminal, it's up in Detroit. So it all goes to Detroit, sits up there for a little bit, gets trucked down to Toledo, ends up in a restaurant, ends up in a store, and then you finally get it. And then how long do you think it's gonna last in the refrigerator? How good, how tasty do you think it's going to be compared to when it was picked 5-6 days ago? So, you keep that in mind, and you think about what the mayor was saying this morning with, yeah, you can, some of this is allowed and some of that is allowed. If you give the consumer a choice to do something reasonable, and you do it in such a way that is environmentally sound, people will buy your product. And we've proven this over and over again. Because you see, my income doesn't stop there. My income stops here. We deliver the product. We deliver it within a 52-mile radius. And when you go to Balance, what happens is their stores, when they close at night, they place an order with us. My crew comes in first thing in the morning, cuts the kale, cuts the lettuce, gets it out in distribution by 11 a.m. So what people are eating for lunch was product that was alive that morning. What do you think? Rather have it on a truck for 5 days or growing that morning? And if you give the consumer that option, they'll go for it. But you have to be environmentally conscious. You can't just go around wasting things. You can't just add to the algae blade and Toledo. And these are all things we have to think of when we're designing the place. So design the place. Nobody's actually seen it downtown. Okay, we're free. We don't charge a thing. We're at the corner of Summit and Jefferson, under the parking garage. Right. It's surrounding glass. Feel free to walk around on it. You see me walking there, tapping the glass, wave. I might come out and talk to you about the place if you really want to. But yeah, there's a walkway. So what we use is a thing called a deep water channel rack system, and all these racks are grow beds. That's how much of the space is fish. The rest of it is product. There is a number that's frequently used in our industry. I haven't quite done the math perfectly yet, but for every acre of properly used indoor farming, we're able to produce what 80 land acres do in a given year. And And one of those reasons is that we don't have a season. It doesn't matter to us if it's January or it's July. Every week we plant, every week we harvest. And it's just a conveyor belt of produce rolling off every day. So you can also be very thoughtful in how you use the environment in places you pick. Sure, we could have taken some farm ground around here, poured concrete, turned into something that's gonna be concrete, probably till your grandkids are old. Or we can find an existing space like this right in downtown Toledo. That video I showed you with all the produce, that's what it looked like 14 months ago. Right in the heart of downtown. The last time this was used for anything was when I was younger than you. Yeah. How'd I get it? Come with this idea? That's a great question. I did not originate the idea. What happened was I started reading about it. I was looking at aquaculture of exotic species, and my cousin talked me out of it. My cousin explained to me how this system works in this loop, and then I started doing a lot of research on it. At the same time, this technique has been around forever. The Egyptian hieroglyphs, there are examples of it in the pictographs showing them using this technique. Techniques used in rice paddies with fish in Asia are also very similar and been around for thousands of years. One of the biggest adapters of aquaponics operations commercially in the world right now is India. And they're basically trying to get the most bang for the buck out of property and turning out food. They have such population, such food issues, that they're trying to crank as much product as they can out of a small area. Not always environment ecologically sound, but they're doing it. Yeah.
What season is your highest yield in? Summer, would you
Doesn't
say,
matter.
fall?
Same.
Doesn't matter? That's
We're,
good. That's
we're
good.
68 degrees in the winter.
That's great.
And we'll bump up to a whopping 78 in the summer.
That's good.
But we run heating and cooling year round. And literally to keep bugs and everything out, even the air filters in our have 3 sets of air filters. Yeah.
Nice.
Why are more places not doing this?
Doing this? I don't know. Why are you driving a car with 4 wheels? You know why? This car's got 4 wheels. And nobody thinks that. No, I'm serious. Because people aren't asking the question until now. It wasn't economically, 10 years ago, half the equipment, like the lights and LED lighting, wasn't available. Wasn't available. And then we also had some ideas to really run amok too. So when farmers, traditional farmers talk about land, what do they use to talk about? How much do they farm? What do they use? Come on, someone. Nobody's ever heard that one? Acres, right? What? Right, acres. They talk about square property. Okay, now, get back to that one thing with temperature. I got a peak in the winter. Hey, come on guys, we're almost done here. Oh, I'm used to leading the troops, don't worry about it. I'll reel them in.
Yeah.
So, oh yeah, you see, it's like on harvesting, we're having too much fun. So at any rate, when everyone else, as far as design, how do we make things work and how do we get 80 acres worth of production out of just one? We don't just think about that acre on the ground. We're not using sunlight. We're going up. We're doing it vertically. So for 8 square feet, or 32 square feet of space, we actually have 144 square feet of product because we're heating and cooling this way. So we're trying to put as much product as we can in there in a given cube of space, not a square of space. Make sense? So you have to really consider some of this with energy and design. So on to efficiency and design. Anybody here play with Raspberry Pi or Arduino? Yeah? Yeah? That's what runs this place is Arduino boards with Node MCUs attached to them for the Wi-Fi connectivity. Yeah, I coded the whole mess. We tried using a German controller and it didn't work, but literally we can run this whole place on it and we can get some pretty good data too. There you go. This is all real time. Water temperatures in the facility, pH, dissolved oxygen, relative humidity, inside and out of the facility. It'll tell us everything. So that way we can do things like that head of lettuce that normally takes 8 weeks to produce in the field or 6 weeks. We have that down to 4.5 and 5. And how do we do that? Well, the plant's not working so hard to find nutrients. We're dropping it right off of its roots. It's spending less energy producing roots. It's spending more energy producing vegetation. get to its next stage in life. Which is why I thought this month goes by. Roots is months leaves, leaves leave the bloom. It can complete its life cycle faster. We just happen to harvest before that time. Let's see, where was I? I lost that. Yep, there it is. There we go. So, again, all this here, off the shelf. Arduino, relays, our water heater is literally a water heater. Can I help you? Is there something in particular? You sure?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you got a question, feel free, that's what I'm here for. You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. So, at any rate, basically, all this stuff is off the shelf. Only thing I've managed to do is just take some pieces. There's been some real breakthroughs in this industry over here, and there's been some breakthroughs over here. All I did was just take two pieces of the puzzle nobody used before, and put them together in a different way. And I think in your lifetime, you're gonna see a lot more of that going on. You're gonna see a breakthrough over here, and a breakthrough over there. And it's that person that takes those two pieces, don't even look like they fit together any which way. Just put them together. Those are the people who are gonna be innovators and creators in our time. Those are gonna be the people that have the breakthrough that changes our life and does things that make our life a little more sustainable. Our life a little easier, a little better. Any questions about the design and the controllers? Anybody into that kind of stuff? I got all my code with me too on this stuff. You can go through that. It's like algebra with verbs. It's a lot of fun. Right there, so what's really made this business be possible and doing it indoor is, does anybody familiar with Reggie Biv? That phrase?
Yellow,
Any
green,
physics?
blue,
Yeah.
violet.
What? Okay. So our grow lights.
Isn't it red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet?
Yeah.
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 Right.
And
It's
Professor
the
Spotty would be
rainbow.
glad that I'm passing it.
Why do you know the rainbow?
That's physics.
Why don't you know the rainbow?
That's physics. That's visible light spectrum.
Hey, no, hey, celebrate.
Yep, that's visible spectrum. And no, this is the kind of stuff you get to dive into and play with in various careers. But LEDs, when you used to have fluorescent lights and incandescent lights a couple of years ago, it's whatever kind of chemicals they put in the tube, you zap with electricity, and that's the kind of light it produced, and that's what you had to work with. Change chemicals a little bit. You had a lot of waste energy and waste heat. With the LEDs, and what's going on is we do spectrum-specific lighting. And by that I mean some of our lights appear to have pink cast, some have blue cast. If you look at them carefully, they're actually a combination of pinks and blues. They just tend to, some have more pinks than blue, kind of tricks your eye. But the one color it's missing is green. Think about it, why? You know what Roy G. Div is. Why are we not bothering to blast the plant with green light?
I have no clue.
Because plants are green, and the reason why a plant's green is it's not using it, it's the only color it's bouncing off. So with LEDs, instead of us paying to have a white light, have the green bounce off, we just pay for the reds and the blues and everything else it likes, drop that light on them, and then blast it with artificial light so I can take pictures. If not, it's a real ugly shade of bluish black. Really wants to see that. So, as far as inputs go, we have to worry about being sustainable there too. Anybody know what peat is? P-E-A-T? Peat bog? Ever hear that term? Ever have to plant something with your parents or in a garden or anything like that, and you get a bag of potting soil? Read the, and he knows how, yeah.
Is it a fertilizer?
Hmm?
A fertilizer?
It's not a fertilizer, it's an organic, it's a dirt that has a fair amount of organic compound in it, decomposed, and has a lot of carbon sequestered in it. Peat takes 600 to 1100 years to form. If you go to a garden center, most stuff say peat moss, and sphagnum moss, and your bag and everything else, well, that's great. That stuff took 600 to 1100 years to form in the dirt, get to that point, become part of an ecology that's very unique in the world, and now somebody dug that stuff up, shoved it in a bag, and you're gonna use it for 6 months and throw it out. And it won't be replaced for 600 years. It honestly, in agriculture in general, is probably one of the biggest, ugliest, hidden in plain view secrets there are. And what's going on with that. And this is very common in Canada and Ireland, where they're ripping this stuff up and using it for, of all things, water retention in dirt. It makes dirt that holds water in. So if you forget to water your plant every week, it's not gonna die. It's the whole purpose behind it. So, again, pieces of the puzzle, we'll just have to put different pieces together. What we ended up using is a product they have been producing for hundreds and hundreds of years. Because coconuts take up a lot of room, right? Well, they would take up a lot more room if they left the husk on them, which is about that thick. So, where they're produced, they take the husk off, grind it up, and then you had all this stuff sitting around. It used to be a natural fiber, maybe used for like pillow and some water proofing and everything else. The last 50 years, this stuff just been sitting there trying to figure out what to do. And somebody had this bright idea to grind it up. That's all that is ground up coconut husk. Stick it in a bag, and somebody like me will gladly buy it. Because every year, you're producing a coconut. My impact on the world is a product that's renewable every year. Or peat moss. That's my choice. I need to retain water so I can grow my product well for my customers. Again, these are just pieces of the puzzle. They've been learning. There's been an industry doing this since the 1600s. And finally just has a use. Yeah. The cocoa, when we're growing, we use new because we are trying to grow super clean stuff, food safe, and as part of the software written, we track. We have the lot number of every bag of cocoa comes in, tracked to a crop, and when it ends up going to a customer, I can trace it all the way back when it came in the front door. We do. Now, we do not throw our cocoa out. A lot of it goes to community gardens, who reuse, recycle. We are also currently in the process of experimenting with our own in-site composting to produce red worms, which will in turn feed the fish. We have, how to say it, it's not quite there yet, so it's not that exciting to show you. It's a cheap cobble. I put a couple biologists in front of building it, so it's not real pretty either. They're working on it. Yeah.
Okay, is there a way you could perhaps treat it with compost so that the two can work together? You think that might be?
No, you don't, honestly, you can do without peat. The problem is peat is, again, why do cars have 4 wheels?
Okay.
Because cars always have 4 wheels, right? Well, we always put peat and sphagnum moss in there, and that was nothing against you when I said that. It's a question nobody bothers to ask.
Right.
And then everybody goes, well, it's obvious, it's what we do. Well, again, what's going to change a lot of these problems, what makes this work as a business, is here's some pieces lying over here, here's some pieces lying over, guess what, put them together, we can do some pretty cool things. And it just so happens I've applied them to this industry, that's all. Any other questions? Do you have another one? Okay, no problem. So, basically, waste, we do not generate wastewater. The only thing we have for wastewater is literally the rafts that the product is floating on. We clean those, we reuse them, that's our wastewater. Cleaning our utensils, the same waste you have in a commercial kitchen, and that's about it. The solids that come off the fish, we put them in a tank every day. It's a whopping 7 gallons. That's our actual wastewater per day, 7 gallons. And we put that in a separate tank where we break it down into the bare minerals it originally was before it went through a fish, right? We drain the water off, put it back in our system, and the minerals we then sell to other farmers who are looking for that kind of a nutrient load in their soils. No waste. No waste in our cocoa, our scraps, our lettuce even, we feed to our fish. When we cut a head of lettuce, we have some left over, throw it back in the fish tanks. So that's how we close the loop on this. That's how you produce it sustainably. And that's how you get a better quality product for the customer. Thoughts, questions? Yeah? So, that's a good question, because I had a very similar one. My facility is a whopping 9,000 square feet, which it's hard to show you what a number is on that. But there was a place in Chicago 3 years ago that went out of business that was 60,000 square feet. They were also twice as high, where we have maybe 4 racks 14 feet off the ground that we use a rolling ladder to get around to. They were 30 feet in the air, 6 tiers high, and using scissor jacks. You would think of a little cart with 4 wheels that are shooting up on that and clamping in. They were one of the first innovators, and the reason why they went out of business had nothing at all to do with the fact that they were losing money or not doing it right. It was all some really weird politics between them and partner companies, and they shut the whole thing down. So I went there to buy equipment, and I'm looking at this place and stuff. I thought I might get 1 moving van worth. I ended up with 3 semis going to Chicago twice a week for like 5 weeks, and guys are running forklifts. It was a mess. It wasn't stuff I didn't plan on doing, but boy, did we get some good deals. But they're showing me all this equipment, showing me all this great stuff, and I'm going, I don't want you guys to screw all this up. This is all going on. Finally, I just asked him, I said, I was trying to think of a political way to ask him. It's like, well, you know, if you're gonna have somebody at time, just start out, what would be the question? You know, what question do you wish you would ask? Which was like, well, and what would you tell them? And the CEO and the CFO looked at each other and they said, early loss, best loss. So, what's that mean? So if you do have a plan to have a problem, your first instinct is to want to nurse it back, to add junk to it, or put stuff in your system. In that case, you risk killing your fish. The other choice is you just move the plant. Luckily, our fish are extremely healthy. We don't ever have to worry about that, but we just move the plant. In the case of diseases, basil, our biggest problem is fusarium wilt, which is an introduced like mold that that's why we monitor humidity. When that humidity hits a certain number, fusarium wilt to basil is what chicken pox are to humans. Pretty much everyone's a carrier of it, but the environmental conditions get just right, it's there. So the trick is we have to keep the environment in a state where diseases that are already in the environment are not likely to happen. What's a bigger problem for us is pests. We have no natural immunity. So we have to literally we have a plan where I can't use pesticides either. I spot an aphid, I can't just pull out sprayers and start going nuts. We introduce bugs. Don't do it now. But if you want to see an interesting bug on YouTube, it's called a Coleman, just like Coleman lantern, Coleman coolers, Coleman wasp. Look it up. I don't know parts. First time I bought these things, I felt ripped off. Right? There's 1,000 cocoons, $80, right? Yeah, sure, okay, airmail them in, here we go, right? And I get a pill bottle about this high. Open it up, and literally it looks like fuzzy brown rice. Looks like brown rice growing mold on it. What in the world is this? Biologics, they say, is the way to go. All right, I'll give it a shot. And I'm skeptical. I am not a farmer, I'm an engineer. And I spread them around and distribute them throughout the facility, just like it says in instructions. And the next day, I see fruit flies buzzing around. I put them in their little cups. I'm going great. Now the fruit flies are just eating these stupid little cocoons. It's a waste. No, that's all the bigger they are. But when they lay eggs, females can lay up to 300 eggs, and each time they lay an egg, they stick it in an individual aphid. And then the egg eats the cocoon is that aphid eaten from the inside out. It's like right out of an Aliens movie. Yeah, go ahead and look it up on YouTube. It's pretty wild. And again, it's one of those things where what we're trying to do is develop an ecology of beneficial organisms. Now the real trick is, and sadly, when we received aphids in on Tuesday, they only have a 7-day lifespan, and I hope the poor little boogers all starved up before that. We don't have any aphids in there. But that's part of our planning, and everything else we have to do is that every week or every other week, depending on where we are in our cycle and time of year, we have beneficial predators that we have to purchase and bring into the facility. And well, unfortunately, hope they starve. They don't have a food source. Yeah, anything else?
Okay, is there time to do a 3-minute break?
Sure.
Okay, you may take a 3-minute break, quick break. You need to go to the restroom, go, get some water, come back in 3 minutes. Yeah.
Can I go, Mom?
There you go.
What are you talking about?
You leave your AirPods in now. We do. No, but if you're I've just been like holding it up. Yeah. I've been like holding it up. Wait, did you have to record all your audio?
Dang it.
No. Nigga, CJ, you're making it out. Bro, man, I don't understand.
No. Fish meal.
Fish meal.
Right. Fish meal is actually a side bone product.
It's already a base.
No. I'll tell you what. I'll make your garden.
Well, it's just, you know, not just.
Okay, you don't want that. So we have people, friends of mine have like quarter acre or half a backyard. They will get a 5-gallon bucket, give them the sealable lid, here you go, right? No.
Dude, they got some of these emails.
And, you know, but I can't.
Nigga, you think I'm gonna do service? I did my service center.
The problem is.
Javon.
It's harder to get it.
No, them bitches was like 2 months ago.
You're making. You're making right? Doesn't hurt. If you put 2 cups in, it's just like a 3 off. Whereas, but if you're doing it with a single loaf of bread, that can be disastrous. So basically, that's where it gets to be really difficult to dial it in. For the most part, usually. Miracle Grow. Yep.
Watch this big one has
Well, you gotta look at what you're doing with the ingredients you're adding. For example, the adjuvant, like you showing me this. The rest of it, we try to pull out as much as possible, but here in this area, we have 3 minerals we're short on routinely. One is iron, and the other one.
Can't take pictures.
Wow.
Well, what we do for iron, what we use is called accumulated iron.
Yes, and it comes from.
No, our stuff's powder. Our stuff's powder. We get. But the biggest problem is we need to boost the electrical conductivity of the water, right? And you add magnesium to get the
Say senior to
Epsom salts.
Just a senior.
So Epsom salts, what you want to do
Make a paper.
is water your plant with. You need a teaspoon of it in the 2-liter bottle. When you're preparing your mix, try a half teaspoon, but that extra magnesium really helps, especially if you're trying to. So an interesting thing is, we are not set up. So if you're a real producer, you got pepper people, you go, wow, I got it, decide try on PVC. Right? Many people do that, right? Well, with my type of system, if I try saving those seeds, first of all, getting covered in the first place, even separate problems. You have to pollinate and paintbrush. Okay, so if you have something flowering inside of the leaves, the blooms come out, on paintbrushes, they have all of them. But the thing is, contained in that seed of a pepper is a trace amount of elements, certain elements, such as there's a couple others, right? That there is enough of that mineral in that seed for that plant in its life, and any seed it has is children's life. But if this plant is, when it grows, is unable to absorb any more molybdenum, 2 generations on that seed will. But Epsom salts is going to help with the pH and the ability to absorb other Evil word around I get it.
I'll do it, I'll try it,
I get it. Some people do. It's not gonna kill us.
Okay, questions?
Questions? Yeah, what you got?
Have you ever like thought about expanding like
Oh, so how do you expand? That's the question. And that was the next thing. We talked about the recycling and the no waste. And how do we save money? Great questions is what do we do from here?
That way.
So, what's way typically people expand a business like this?
Focus.
They build bigger and bigger and bigger, right? They build a bigger facility next to their existing one. Here's the downfall of that. If I'm built out in Toledo and I'm building a bigger one, I'm shipping product to Cleveland and Columbus now. Kind of shoots that 0 food miles fresh food thing in the foot, doesn't it? If I'm having to cut it and transport it that far. Detroit, 40, 50 miles, we can do that, but you move up to like 2 hours, it gets to be a problem. So yes, we're planning on other facilities. And again, recycling other facilities, like, you know, the big box stores that are going out of business. It's a prime candidate for us to do something with it. But Kmart's too old, may contain asbestos. You do have to be careful in, like, site selection, like the old Older Beerman.
Yeah.
Like Sears,
And you use
same
that?
problem, don't want to, don't wanna chance it. I can't, some of the things you have to be careful of when you're going through a facility. I found this warehouse on, not far from like Manhattan's downtown, that part of the edge of downtown, it's a little sketchy. At one time, I was told it was a ship's laundry. They used to, when the freighters came in, they'd come buzzing up with a boat, and the boat would throw its dirty laundry, along the ship would throw its dirty laundry on them, they'd crane up a fresh load of bed sheets and everything to them. And they did like all the laundry for all the freighters on the Great Lakes.
Oh, wow.
That was a story I read, but I'm going, "Man, that was a long time ago since they did that." And started reading it, and guess what? The DNR gave it a clean bill of health, because the last thing it was really used for was a chroming plant. They were chroming metals. Chroming metals are probably one of the more toxic things, toxic heavy metal things you can still do in the state of Ohio. So you really want me to grow produce in there. So you have to be careful. You gotta pick a place that is completely gutted out, stripped, certified, 6 ways to Sunday, independently tested, that there is nothing bad. That's also one of the problems of the brownfield farmers, you know what I'm talking about, the guys who do, there used to be a house here, now we're growing tomatoes for the community. Did anybody test the soil for lead? Right? Because chances are that old house they bulldozed had a lot of lead plank, they got ground up and worked into the dirt. Did anybody test it for asbestos? Did anybody test it for any other heavy metals and chemicals that might have been used in that house? Those are all things you have to be conscious of in the planning. You just can't take an area like that, rip out an old building and go with it. You gotta look for asbestos, you gotta look for previous manufacturing, you have to look for, like the chroming, asbestos are the two biggest ones, and also lead contamination. You have to be very conscious of that in site selection. So what we're looking at is big box stores that were built probably in the 80s or 90s. Pick an example from North Toledo, like there's a Dead Dick's Sporting Good on Lexus, that would be a good example. The Kmart's on a Lexus, too old, not such a good example. Yeah, does that answer your question? What else? Any ideas where I can solve some problems? Oh, did I see a hand back there? No. Nothing else exciting on that question end. So, who's eating at Balance? Did you eat there this week? Last week? Okay. So the lettuce, the daikon microgreens, the basil, and a good portion of the kale all comes from us now. So, you were asking about design. The other thing you have to worry about in site selection is how tall is it? And how do you get around that? Right? Because you move a human being so far off the ground, you have to start loading him in safety code. And then all of a sudden he's moving slower, he's not as productive, he doesn't want to spend as much time up there, so all of a sudden your crop are the ones up top are getting diseased because nobody wants to spend any time looking at them up there, they want to get off this stupid lift. Those are all problems we have to solve in that one.
Why not insert cameras?
What?
Why not insert cameras?
We have some cameras already. Now, we have a certain amount of cameras we keep on the product.
Like robotic cameras, you know?
Yeah.
visualize.
Yeah.
We know like they're doing sci-fi movies.
I can show you, we have a couple of cameras in the facility already that we use along those lines. There are people working towards roboticizing,
Okay.
including Mike Zelkin down at 80 acres are working on roboticizing the facility. The biggest reason is not just labor reduction. No, not even that. No, you think about it, the biggest vector we have for pests to get in is they hitch a ride on somebody.
Oh.
So if you don't let anybody in the facility, the only thing that goes in the facility where they're growing is seed and sterile dirt and sterile nutrients, and let the robot plant the sterile seeds in the sterile dirt, let it grow, and then you pull the product out on the far end. It's being worked on. It's being worked on. You know, yeah. What's that? Nope, 50% of what we do goes to balance. It's for balance, and we do some different, we're doing some, the daikon, the little microgreens with purple stems. Those might be going away and replaced with sunflower. Working it out with CJ, I'm not sure. But, yeah, they're really, they're like they taste a little bit like a sunflower, but they're real chewy. They taste like pistachios, it's really good. But no, the rest of what we do, the other 50%, we do fine dining. In fact, today, I do a fair portion of deliveries myself, so the other guy doing deliveries. We have a couple of new customers in Detroit today too. So on my lunch break, I had to run back out and made sure he made it to where he was supposed to go. A little tricky sometimes to get to these places, but we deliver 50% of our products just to Balance Farm. The other 50%, Toledo, Detroit, Ann Arbor, predominantly fine dining. And we service, on top of the 5 Balance locations, we serve an additional, this week we delivered to 31 additional restaurants. Well, 2 of those are the Churchill's locations. So yeah, that's the odd little niche we carved out. And we have competition, people who do things, try to do things like us. There was, closest I had in Detroit to competition, there was a hydroponic place that they screwed up their biology in the water and had to shut the place down. They're killing all their plants, they just closed their business. Then you have, like in Ann Arbor, you have plenty of students up there who wanna make a go of it, they got nothing to lose. And the thing is, and this is where the engineering comes in, sure, anybody can grow micro cilantro. It's all over the place. Anybody can grow micro cilantro 1 week. You can grow a tray of it 1 week. But by a tray, like the tray you see for starts, we have, at any given time, 1,100 trays of microgreens on the shelf. Yep, just in just that area, you're watching that video in the end, those little racks, some of the lights weren't on yet, it was too early. And we have 1,100 trays in that area alone. And we have to turn that product out to keep our business and to keep our customers happy. We have to do it every week consistently. Literally, the other phone call I made was to the tall, skinny guy that was in the photo there. He's in charge of production today. We literally did not ship 0.6% of orders today. That's it. The rest of it, we had everything stocked. Everything ready to grow. And buying stock, I don't mean we got it in a cooler. We keep everything growing. Okay, so how are we get around this whole refrigeration thing? Well, you're gonna need for refrigeration. You don't cut it until I have an order. Until somebody wants to buy it, it's still growing. Leave it growing, leave it fresh. So my guys come in, cut it in the morning, and we deliver in the afternoon. It's a lot cheaper and cooler. When it comes to things like the basil, right? Basil does not refrigerate. It refrigerates about as well as a banana. I mean, it wilts and it's all squishy in no time flat. So what do we do with basil? Well, we give it to them live, just like you sell Churchill's in a bag. For restaurants, we do it by a bucket or a plastic tote. And oh yeah, the plastic buckets, we actually get them from the floral department at Kroger's because they were just throwing all that plastic out.
Pardon this brief interruption. There are 5 minutes remaining in this session. We ask that all teachers keep all students until an examen beginning at 2:30.
So we're not gonna do the homework? Mentor groups, since we're most part do those.
So, but literally those buckets, we tell the customers, hey, look, we're getting back, we're gonna charge you 50 cents for them. And we get them back and reuse them, so that's less plastic that's ending up in the landfill.
We're almost
Does
there.
that answer your question? Anyone else? Come on, we got 4 minutes to go, I wanna finish the top.
There you
What?
go.
How many
Power
employees do
through.
you have?
What?
How many employees do you have?
We currently do that whole operation with 2 people plus 1 guy that helps out in deliveries twice a week. And that's it. No. And more importantly, our big excitement is Hannah was our most recent addition, the woman in that photo, right? And we're so excited to get her trained up because here's the bad news about this business. It's 7 days a week. You have to feed the fish, check the biology, make sure things are going smooth. And we lost a person when we made the transition to this larger facility. And we've been looking for another person we can trust because me and the other guy that works for me, we've been at it for 6 days a week for a year. You want a day off, you gotta ask the other guy, dude, I'll trade you this Sunday, this week, for how about a Saturday in July? You get July off. What? Well, there's plenty, well, first of all, does the coronavirus affect my business? Yeah, it terrifies us, because we're counting on people, for the most part, our business is dining, places where people want to be sociable. So yes, we have concern, and I've already had discussion with my partners about what do we do in the case of a plague. Our thought is this, is that it's probably going to be, which is my thought, it's probably gonna be a 10 to 14 day scare in the region sometime in the next 45 days or so. But we are continuing operations. We are making it optional whether or not employees come in. I've always felt that way about issues of safety, including snowstorm. Level 1, please be here. Level 2, use your judgment. Level 3, stay home, I got it. So, and that's the kind of thing you have to consider. But again, the way this system is built, we can turn on the automatic fish feeders, we can monitor everything by camera. We run the risk of things going possibly wrong and sideways and not being as effective, but we can do that. So in the event that happens, we let some stuff grow out. We may have some product that goes over the hill and ages out, gets too big, woody, ugly, or whatever. But even then, it's just for us suspending sales for a period of time and then resuming sales. Not that big. Yeah, it's scary. Yeah. End of the world? Hope not. Shouldn't end us. But I know our business, our customers are very concerned about what it's doing to their market, what it might do to their market. If it makes you feel any better, I turned on an opportunity to go race the sailboat in St. Augustine in 2 weeks just because I didn't want to get stuck in quarantine somewhere.
I know, you don't wanna get, yeah, they're very tight, yeah.
Yeah, that's about it. Anything else? If not, I think you need me out of here.
Let's give them a warm hand.